Hello, yogis. Derek here with Denver Yoga Underground. Question for us to consider: what's asana's rightful place in the larger practice of yoga? Now, very commonly, these two terms have been conflated. So we might say something like, I'm going to yoga class. And typically, what that means is that we'll go to some particular space, roll out the mat, do a number of yoga poses, and we call that going to yoga class. When in fact, the word asana and the word yoga are two distinct terms, two distinct concepts, though they overlap in some area and have some things in common. The term asana literally means seat. Like if you were to come into my living room and I would invite you to come take up an asana, have a seat. That's its original meaning. Of course, it's come to mean the body of dynamic yoga poses that we recognize today. And originally, the criteria, like how do we know if we're doing a yoga asana well, is this both stable and at ease? This was Patanjali's classic definition of what a yoga asana is. Interesting side note, notice he didn't say anything about flexibility per se in that. So that's Patanjali's lens. And yoga, there's many definitions for this because ultimately yoga is even larger than the human language or the human imagination or any human conception. In fact, Patanjali defines yoga as what lies beyond the mind, or yoga is the cessation of mental modification. But we could characterize that as a kind of spiritual union of sense of individuality with a larger and greater universal identity, one that's capable of a kind of emancipative peace, right? To overcome the confines and limitations of our own particular ego space, the ongoing and incessant messages and communication babble that happens between our ears, and to recognize something far more universal and far more real than our particular identity space. So asana then is a means by which to go about the larger process of yoga, right? So yoga is a much more vast and ambitious pursuit, and asana is one among many means or methodologies by which we can go about that. So other means include meditation or devotional practice or devotional service or karma yoga, jnana yoga, study and reflection on text. These are other means by which we can go about that, and asana is one such means. So in that context, the primary goal of yoga, or asana rather, is not so much flexibility and greater health. Those are viewed more as kind of beneficial side effects. Like when we take pharmaceuticals, there might be a long list. I don't know the last time you saw a Viagra commercial, but it's a pretty extensive list of all the places that deleterious side effects that can happen. Whereas in the greater yoga system or asana system, side effects include things like increased happiness or flexibility or range of motion or vitality or even peace, right? And these are welcome signposts in pursuit of this larger spiritual union or kind of freedom from all anxiety. Okay. One way we could relate to asana is to think of it as a kind of first aid kit for life experience. So you can skillfully apply different poses to remedy your particular life situation. So if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety and stress, there's particular poses that can complement that. Or if you're experiencing depression, there's particular poses that could fit in or remedy that, so that you can become a more kind of healthy, embodied individual as a baseline for this, again, larger yogic pursuit that I mentioned. Okay. One way that asana typically can do that, another lens that we can hold up on, this comes less from Patanjali and more from the Hatha Yoga system, is this idea of energy management, right? How to regulate or control the atmosphere, the weather, the quality of sensation and experience and fluidity or not fluidity that occurs within us. And we call that, just generically for the moment, just call that energy management, right? And again, to lean back into Patanjali a bit, Patanjali characterized the merit benefit of asana. How do we know if we're doing it skillfully? Is that we have, or the effect is that we have stability in the pairs of opposites. So life continues to come at us. There's always going to be gain. They'll be accompanied by loss, or the company of experience of pleasure, or the experience of pain. Like life is very much defined by night, day, male, female. It's defined by what are commonly called the pairs of opposites. And asana, then, is what can give us stability in the midst of the pairs of opposites, all held within this larger pursuit of yoga or emancipation or freedom. So I wish you peace on the path, my friends. Wish you well. Till next time. Could be a few moments from now. It's up to you. Thank you to all my subscribing, liking, commenting friends. Comments in particular. It's a joy to be able to interact with you more personally and understand how these things are landing. Or if you have suggestions about other questions you may have, happy to address those as well. Okay, peace on the path. Be well. Oh.